My guy has been waiting for this division preview with that jersey, huh? Let's go.
I'm hype. I can't wait. We got the future.
The future.
It's just going to take a little while.
A lot of teams might have the future. Think about it. A lot of young quarterbacks in this division,
You
bro.
know what it is? Because teams aren't afraid to move on right away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's the famous Bill Parcells quote, you take the wrong quarterback, it sets your franchise back 10 years.
Yeah.
Now it's like 2 years. Guys, they're not afraid. This new regime's come in way faster than others, or way faster than historically.
And then also, once you find that guy, you forget about
It don't matter. Who
I
cares?
think
Keep drafting them.
the
Cardinals.
Cardinals are the perfect team to be able to read about that quote, think about that quote, and then think of them. Like, they spend a top 10 pick on Josh Rosen. The next year, they give up on him.
Mm-hmm.
They draft a quarterback number 1 overall, and now no one remembers Josh Rosen. Except for me, who was holding on stock until like halfway through last year.
Yes, you did. That's you're big on that though.
Ah, man.
It's
It's clipped though for that. It's quiet.
I'm pumped.
General outlook for the AFC East.
I mentioned this on the NFC East pod. I think the divisions are going to be similar in the sense that there's 3 teams that are going to be fighting for the crown, and I think they're going to beat up on each other. I think the Bills, the Patriots, and the Dolphins are good teams, and I think it's going to be a 3-team race the entire season. I think the records are going to look similar, and the Jets are going to fall behind a little bit, and that's fine. It's a rebuilding year. Just have the young guys show out. Let's get the quarterback looking good, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a very competitive division, I think, at the top. What about you?
I think I'm fascinated by what happens with the quarterbacks in this division. Because was last year an anomaly for Josh Allen, or is that who he really is?
I think it's who he is.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
It was more so just like making a statement as opposed to like wanting a rebuttal. But that was good though too. Like Tua, I think last year he's coming into that season off the surgery. There's no off season. There's no training camps. There's no like interactions and shit. Like you didn't get the OTAs, none of that.
Yeah.
Which for a young quarterback, it's important. And they really coddled him a lot.
3rd offense in 3 years as well, to be fair. And I'm not the biggest Tua guy.
Right.
But
Right.
you know, that's
So, and then, the Jets moved to Zach Wilson off Sam Darnold. The Patriots draft Mac Jones, your boy.
Yeah. They still have Cam, though.
They still got Cam. Let's see if that was last year, all the weapons that they had was the issue, or was it him?
Yeah. I think it's the weapons. You went from Demir Bird and Ryan Izzo.
Is this your addition? Are you starting additions?
No, we're just
general?
talking in general.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think, Cam looked good early in the season, caught COVID.
And then is when he sort of spiraled off.
Yeah. And not for nothing, the Patriots went 7-9 last year with a roster.
That should have went 5-11, yeah.
Of course, no one would ever say this, but one can argue it was one of Belichick's best seasons as a coach. They had guys opting out left and right, offensive line, linebackers, everyone across the board. They opted out. That team had more opt-outs than I don't even know. I can't even count. They probably had the most.
They had the most opt-outs, and it segues into my biggest addition, getting back Dante Hightower.
It's amazing.
Because he was the leader of that defense. Belichick has been on record saying that he's one of the smartest players he's ever had from his first year in the league. Just gave him the playbook and was able to just master everything. He's the guy that is in communication with Belichick from the defensive end of the football. You get him back. Leader of the defense. Held out all of 2020 because of COVID. Now you get back him, who I think their defense is going to be their strength. Yes. Fair to say.
Remember the year before the COVID season, their defense was elite?
Yeah.
Elite. Well, they didn't play great teams.
They didn't play like a bunch of
They were still elite.
Fair.
Play who's on your schedule.
Fair.
Their defense in fantasy was outscoring people on offense.
Right. Yeah, I remember the Patriots defense was winning people millions of dollars in DFS because at one point they were like 4,800, which is, usually a defense will go up to like 3,600 is like the most expensive, but you're basically paying like Emmanuel Sanders value money-wise for a defense, and people weren't doing that. But I think Dante Hightower coming back is a huge addition because he wasn't there last year, and just everything that he brings to the table for them is fascinating to me.
I guess it's weapons for Cam. You go. I mentioned this. You go from throwing to Demir Bird and Ryan Izzo to, say what you want about Aguilar. He's a starting NFL wide receiver. Whether you gave up too much, that's another conversation. They had the money to spend. I think they gave out $150 million guaranteed. That's like unlike Belichick. 160 in free agency. That's
how much of that was the Bucs winning the Super Bowl and trying to bounce back from?
I don't necessarily think that's the issue. I think that it's something that they've never done historically. They've never really spent money. Do you think there's something personal there? I don't know if that's the case. I just think Cam Newton has weapons now. He went from throwing to guys that no one's ever heard of to throwing to Aguilar, Bourne, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. They have weapons now. Like, let's see what you got. And then look, if it doesn't work out, you got my boy Mac and Cheese.
Mac and Cheese, that's your guy.
He's still wearing 50, by the way. Because Belichick don't give you a quarterback number unless you prove yourself or something like that. But everything I'm hearing out of Patriots camp is the kid looks good. Even Cam is talking highly of him. So whether Cam gets hurt, whether Mac Jones is the one that comes in, because if I'm not mistaken, Hoyer's there as well. Room's a little crowded. We'll see. But I think it's just in general. I think it's it's Cam, weapons for Cam, and all the guaranteed money they gave around.
Nah, it's definitely the weapons for Cam because I think you see it happen a lot with players. Like, is it your situation that you're in that makes you bad and unproductive, or is it your shot? I think we're gonna find out really quickly with Cam if that's the case. I do know that there was a lot of times where he kind of like
the mechanics were off.
Nah, but he kind of like cricket through footballs. Like they would just one hop to wide receivers. Like wide receivers would be open, and then he would just like low ball them, like you're throwing the ball down to first base.
He said he hasn't been healthy since 2016. He said this is the first season that he's healthy since 2016. I should have worded that differently. He's healthy.
Yeah, outside of COVID, he didn't suffer any injuries last year.
Well, he had the shoulder from the year before.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, he brought that into the year. So, you're right.
Yeah.
Where COVID was the only issue that made him miss games last year.
They were 7-9, and they're a couple bounces away from being a 9-7 team. Now, 9-7 doesn't sound great when the other two teams in your division win 10+, or 10 and 10+. But, again, we're just talking about how depleted the roster was.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Patriots are going to, show some people that they're still there. Maybe Belichick's one last hurrah. We'll see what happens. Just like maybe one last pocket of years is what I mean. I like what they did with some of the. I like what they did on the offensive side of the ball. It reminds me of the Gronk and Aaron Hernandez 2 tight end type of a setup. Now you have Jonnu Smith and you have Hunter Henry, 2 guys that are not slouches.
Yeah. To push back a little bit on that, Gronk's probably the best tight end of all time.
No, I'm just saying in terms of the way the offense is
run. The scheme of it, the 2 tight ends, yeah, I get that. But I also think, like, when people always say that teams want to do what the Warriors do, like shoot a bunch of threes and have it's like, yeah, but they also got the 2 best shooters of all time. But so it's easier said than done. And Aaron Hernandez was a great football player. Legend off the field, a lot of chaos, but them 2 together were ridiculous. Yeah. I would always say that Gronk was the better tight end. Aaron Hernandez was a better football player because they could split him out wide. In Florida, he was getting like handoffs and shit. They do end arounds. Like, he was a more explosive tight end, and he could block.
Gronk just couldn't tackle.
Yeah, he just couldn't stop him.
Fucking polar bear.
I mean, shit, you saw what he did in the Super Bowl too.
Caught a touchdown.
Yeah. Subtraction.
You could go first.
Sam Darnold.
Okay.
Am I stubborn for still holding on to Sam Darnold?
No, my subtraction's Adam Gase.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me just finish on Sam Darnold. I think he's another example of like what we said about Cam, right? Was he bad because of the pieces around him, or was he bad because he's just bad? I think we're going to find out very quickly in Carolina for him because I think he has a lot of weapons on his team.
Absolutely.
And a lot of very good weapons, borderline elite. DJ Moore, I would say, he's like very close on the cusp of being like a top 10 wide receiver. McCaffrey is a top 3 to 5 running back in the league. And I think Darnold it was just a broken marriage. It was a marriage where all your friends know that you're going for a divorce, but you're just holding on to trying to like, yo, let's go on this vacation together, rekindle the marriage. But it's still just quiet.
I think both can be true. I think he could have played better, but I also think he wasn't set up for success. I think both can be true because, I mean, I watched every Jet game, and there's plays that he continued to make. He continued to make the same mistakes, right? And granted, it doesn't help when you have a shitbag head coach that's calling shitbag plays, and you have shitbag receivers, right? Like, I understand. Like, you're not setting him up for success. That's why I'm excited about what they're doing now, because they're building from the offensive line. They're going to get weapons, right? I like what they're doing. They didn't do that for Sam Darnold. So I think both can be true. I think the expectations for Sam Darnold were higher than what the reality was supposed to be. Like, he was the 3 pick. We traded up for him. He coming out earlier in the draft process, Baker Mayfield wasn't the number 1 guy. It was Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And then as kind of, I don't know what happened, but throughout the process, the evaluation process, some put Baker Mayfield higher, and whatever the case is. So I think
it had to be Baker's charisma. The more it's aged, it had to be like his swag, his bravado. He seems like more of an alpha than Darnold too.
Yeah.
Maybe because he's more in the limelight, but I mean he is in New York. But like Baker had that swag and charisma of, yo, I'm the fucking man.
And also, for all the shit that people want to talk about Baker, all of his teammates love him. For all of the shit that he gets for, he's a me guy, he wants to spot this, that. Everyone loves him from Oklahoma all the way through. Mm. So that's kind of one of those narratives that people are trying to kind of get out, because he's loved by all of his teammates. So I think Sam Darnold's going to have a solid career. I just think that the expectation was he can carry your team. And he's not. And there's nothing wrong with that. How many NFL quarterbacks are there in the league can carry an offense?
3. I think.
Yeah. I'd maybe say there's a couple more in different ways. Like,
oh, you put me on the spot. So just off the top of my head, the ones that came to mind were Rodgers, Mahomes, and Wilson.
Okay. What about, and again, not in terms of throwing the ball as a whole, but what about like Lamar Jackson? Because Lamar Jackson's not really surrounded with elite pieces, but he's winning MVPs. He's taking his team to the playoffs, 10 wins. He can carry a team with his running ability and, of course, what he can do with his arm.
Probably can throw Josh Allen in there, too.
Josh Allen. And I think that the perception was Darnold can be one of those types of guys, an elite quarterback. It's not to say he can't be a very good quarterback, but you have to put guys around him. So I just think the expectations were a little too high.
He kind of checks off all the boxes of having a Tannehill kind of career. Though Tannehill had a lot more success than he did in Miami because he made the playoffs, won double-digit games. Darnold hasn't done either. But I do see a lot of similarities. You buy low, a real buy low, not a DeAndre Hopkins Impy fantasy buy low.
You gave up what? A 3rd-round pick and I don't even know what they gave up. Not much.
Not much.
So, fascinated to see it. Subtraction though. Adam Gase. Did we talk about it? He's a bum. Get him out of here.
Yo.
Terrible coach.
Another addition is watch some of the guys that are still on the Jets have some breakthroughs. Maybe a Denzel Mims.
Yeah.
Even though I'm hearing from a beat writer that I know from the Jets that he's on the outside looking in.
Elijah Moore.
It's Elijah Moore season. 50-1 to be rookie of the year.
I'm going to talk about him a bunch.
Chris Herndon.
Finally, right? If
maybe
this ain't the year,
you lose that Adam Gase stench and you're able to have a little breakthrough. Wasn't too long ago where that dude was like balling out with Darnold.
Yeah, the one that second half of the season they went 6-2. They finished the year 7-9, and everyone was.
He had like a 6-7 catch game.
He's fantasy football darling. Everyone, that's one of those guys. Subtraction, Adam Gase, not even close.
Storyline, AFC East for me. It's a takeover for the young QBs. Josh Allen still young. Zach Wilson, your boy. Mac Jones waiting.
In the wings.
Tua. Now, no more Fitzpatrick. You fucked this up. Like, you're going to be out there the whole time, man. You're going to embarrass yourself. There's no more, like, pulling the plug on you early. So I think these young QBs, it's very important to see what you got, obviously. But also, what do you do the ensuing off seasons if you do have your quarterback, right? Do you do the Buffalo Bills approach where you bring in Stephon Diggs and John Brown and Cole Beasley and all these guys because you know that your guy needs to be surrounded by weapons? Or do you draft another quarterback?
Yeah. And I think in my storyline is Tua. It's not the quarterbacks in the division. It's Tua as a whole. Tank for Tua was the thing.
Hey, y'all asked for this.
No. Tank for Tua was the thing. It turns out he's the third best quarterback of the class, or of that batch, I guess. Right? It's clear, unfortunately, that. Do you think there's any question? Like,
Who I would take from the bunch?
Tua was the third, right?
Oh yeah.
Without, it's like you don't have. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's not much he can do, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that is a cloud that's hovering over the franchise
And
as a whole.
and if he didn't get injured, I'd say Burrow and Herbert would be a lot closer.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's them two at the top, and then I think there's a gap between two.
Yeah.
They pulled them twice last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the offseason, he goes on the record, and I think he earns brownie points for this. He goes on the record and says, I wasn't comfortable calling the plays. He goes, Miami Herald, I think the guys here last year were phenomenal. I didn't have the comfortability checking plays, alerting plays, and doing all of that. He would roll with a play even if he knew it didn't work because he didn't know the playbook. He was still trying to make it work. I didn't know the playbook well, yada, yada, yada. I think that helps him get over in the locker room because guys know. Guys know when you're lying. Guys know when you know the playbook or not. So I think that'll help him with other guys in the locker room. But it's very true. They bring in Will Fuller. They bring in Waddle. It's similar to the Giants in the NFC East. They're putting the pieces around him. No excuses. Let's see what you got. Healthy. An elite defense. Right? That's my storyline is Tua because they were all over the Deshaun Watson conversation. They were all over it. They had the pieces. They had the picks.
They were the most likely candidate to be able to get him.
Yeah. So I think that kind of just throws a curveball into this whole thing. If he has a bad year, do they try to trade for him in the offseason if all of that clears up with Watson? Do they just draft another quarterback? I'm so fascinated by Tua and what happens there.
Yeah, he's my player to watch for this division. And I think also, he's sort of, if he's shown any flashes, he's a second-year quarterback, and we like the second-year quarterback from a betting perspective. He's 60-1 to win MVP. I'm not going to go out and say that that's a pick or that's something I would bet on, but if you look at the pieces around him, right, you got Will Fuller, who finally stayed healthy last year. He just got popped for the suspension.
I think he's going to miss the first game of the year.
Yeah, because it carries over. So you got Will Fuller, you got Jalen Waddle. People are forgetting about Devontae Parker, who I think is a very solid wide receiver, and he's perfect for.
He'd be a great two, right?
He's great to complement this offense because you have all the speed. You need a guy that can make a play as far as like
big body,
traffic,
yep.
Big body, a high point guy, and then you have like Grant, that slot receiver, the
Gesicki as well.
Gesicki, who I think might have a monster year, especially with now all of these weapons. Gaskin, my guy, picked him up on waivers last year, rode me all the way to the playoffs. He was very, very solid. He put up like 32 points in the championship against the Raiders. Fucking went bananas. But I think Tua, look, you asked for this as an organization. It was tank for Tua. You got him. You surrounded him with some pieces. And I think he just needs to be that guy that you're asking for because you just invested a lot in him. Because not only did you invest a 5th-round pick in him, and then also, what about this? Herbert went after. So you know that's going to be played into the whole talking point.
Yeah, and also I do feel like
fair or not fair,
yeah.
that's just how it's going to be, right? You always, we're Knicks fans, bro. How many times have we been like, oh my God, they could have had Curry one pick before and shit like that.
But this is the case where they took the guy before. They took the wrong guy.
They took the wrong guy. That's what I'm saying. It's not like, Herbert was there for them. So, like, the Chargers in this case got the guy that they didn't think they were going to get, right? Yeah. But, like, with the Dolphins, you made that decision.
Player to watch, just the Buffalo Bills running back room.
To give a little bit of a teaser, that's what I picked for the Bills when we do it on Patreon.
I wanted to push back. You had made a comment about, like, the Bills' weapons. Diggs is a number one receiver. I like Cole Beasley. I don't think they have like a top half of the NFL skill guys.
Oh.
Other than Diggs, like we talk about this all the time. 3 receivers and a running back, or 2, however you want to slice and dice it. I guarantee you, if we go down the NFL, the Bills group, I don't know if they'd be at the top half of the NFL. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because
So you're saying that there's 16 better offensive
groups
than Buffalo?
And look, maybe it's close, but I'm just saying I don't think they've surrounded him with elite talent. Like, he's done so much by himself. He's their running game.
Yeah, and inside the red zone, he's
their running back, essentially. Yeah. And we know what he can do with the ball.
You know, I hear what you're saying. I think my only pushback is that I think Diggs is like a top 5 wide receiver. So he's so high up.
It off balances the rest.
That it kind of makes up for what's not there.
That's
right?
fair.
Like, that's like how I feel about Green Bay. Now, I know they have Aaron Jones, but I'm talking about just like the wide receivers. Adams is so fucking good that it just elevates the rest of them. So I feel like Diggs is the same way. And look, they also added Manny Sanders.
Who's been on like the 4th team in 4 years. And that's what I was going to say about John Brown. John Brown's solid, but how many teams has he been on the last 3-4 years? Like, it's just Josh Allen is the entire offense. And Brian Daboll's back. I thought he was going to take the job with the Chargers, the offensive coordinator of the Bills.
Oh, I would have loved that. I would have felt so much better with my Justin Herbert take.
And even if Josh Allen, we'll talk about this a little bit, but even if Josh Allen regresses a little bit, he's still going to be a top 5 quarterback. Because you can make the argument he was a top 3 last year. Like, you could make the argument if Rodgers didn't do what he did, Josh Allen was the MVP. And you laughed at me. I gave him out his pick. But he really
I'm never laughing at you again for MVP picks.
He put it all together last year, man. And granted, he has a really great coordinator and so on and so forth. But
on their offense, their weakness is probably the running game.
It's not even
Devin
close.
Singletary, you got Zach Moss, get Matt Breida. It's not exactly like he's the most like 20 touch for 68-yard running back in the league.
Does anyone know? That's at me. That's at me. So yeah, that's the gist of that.
Man, this division, right? It was so Patriot heavy throughout the years. I think last year I even picked New England to win that division because I felt like I'm going to trust Belichick and the infrastructure. I'm going to trust the fired up Cam. You know, Buffalo started off the year 7-3, and then they won 6 straight games to close out the year. So they got hot right there. And then if you think about it, they should have won that Cardinals game if it wasn't for the Hail Murray. But I'm just fascinated. The biggest thing for me, and just to pivot back a little bit to the storyline, is I want to see what happens with these young quarterbacks, man.
Yeah.
Because think about if all these guys end up hitting their potential, and they're like, Dolphins are happy with Tua. He plays at a high level. Jets don't need to worry about quarterback for the foreseeable future. Mac Jones steps in. You're talking about a division that got 4 really good quarterbacks.
Yeah. And
if it works out that way.
Whereas it was always like everyone was chasing Brady.
Everyone needed to find someone to compete with Brady. Brady's gone, and now everyone has a good quarterback. That'd be a subplot that would be fun to monitor moving forward.
Yeah. It's kind of like the AFC North in a way. You got your Lamar, you got your Baker, you got your Burrow, and then just the Steelers need their guy. But generally speaking, 3 of the 4 are mad young.
Yeah. Yeah, but like Flacco had some really good years for Baltimore.
Oh, no, I'm just saying like in terms of having your quarterback set up for the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Same deal.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. AFC East. We'll be doing team by teams on the Patreon, patreon.com/veteransminimum. Shout out to all the members of the Patreon. We got Nick Chavez, Christopher Velasquez, Corey Johnson Hoops, Derek Platees, Ryan Pisner, my guy Piz, Buffalo Gang. 6 weeks without smoking bogeys.
Nice. Congrats,
yeah. Hopefully when Buffalo's down 28-0 in a playoff game, you don't go back to your old ways. You know, the stress be adding up.
They would have played better than the they would have been a better – it would have been a – They would have played the Bucks better, I think.
Then the Chiefs?
You don't think so?
No, not at all.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Mahomes was all fucking running all over the place. That offensive line was bad.
Yeah, because of the offensive line.
That's what I was saying.
Oh, yeah. All things considered, yeah. I would agree with
of course.
you. Daniel Gibson, Derek Plates, Devin Rendon, Corey Johnson Hoops. Sorry if I mentioned your name twice. Whatever.
Double the love.
Double the love. Patreon.com/Veterans Minimum. A lot of extra content. We're ramping it up. I think I said the same thing twice.
But we're also wrapping it up, too.
We are wrapping it up. Always wrap it up. Imp, where can they find you?
IMPY718 on Twitter and Instagram. You already know.
Catch you guys next time.